Well, today is World Leukemia Day, and the NGO Campaigning for Cancer has launched 2 informational posters about this cancer to help South Africans understand the disease and manage risks. Let's discuss this further now. I'm joined now by Lauren Pretorius from Campaigning for Cancer. Lauren, good afternoon. I've got to thank you for your time and your patience here on eNCA. So you're releasing these 2 informational posters on World Leukemia Day, and I believe there must be a reason for you to want to amplify communication around this type of cancer, blood cancer. Is it your understanding that it's least understood, or it's not as understood as it should be?
I think the understanding of that is precisely that it's the signs and symptoms of this cancer are often masked as usual signs and symptoms that we see. So signs and symptoms of fatigue, nosebleeds, bruising. So it's a cancer that can be missed. And then secondly, it's not only a cancer that affects adults, but it also affects children. So it's something that we have to look in both adults and children for those signs and symptoms.
Yeah, in fact, talk a bit more to that point. My understanding is that it is the one cancer that is more frequently detected among children, and it's part of the reason why it is so dreaded in our minds. When you think leukemia, it's so dreaded because, we know cancer affects people and affects all of us, but when you start to get one that sort of tends to occur more frequently among children, it becomes a dreaded disease.
Yeah. So what we're seeing at the moment is that it's in fact one of the most common cancers amongst children, with almost in South Africa between 25% and 28% of children diagnosed with a cancer being diagnosed with leukemia. The reason on this is just the age of the child and the different cells that work. And in the past, it was a scary thing to hear, the word leukemia, and we have pictures of movies where children are dying. But what we're seeing is as technology has improved, we're almost seeing a 90% 5-year survival for children that receive treatment early enough. So that's a really big thing that we need to push, is that if you're looking for those symptoms and you catch those symptoms early enough, there's a really, really good chance that with today's medication, we can achieve a successful survival rate in children.
I saw you sharing that, Lauren, and it's quite encouraging to see that the survival rates are improving. And you say, actually, this is across many other cancers as well, but of course, also emphasizing that early detection remains key.
Absolutely. And with all cancers, it is early detection that remains, the stalwart of making sure that we get the best outcomes for patients. And I think at the end of the day, it goes back to the call of if something is different in your body and it's persisting for a long time, you need to get it looked at. We know our bodies, we know what's right. We know our children's bodies. We know when our children aren't themselves and they're more tired and listless. So we need to keep an eye out for that. And when something continues, go and see a doctor, visit your clinic, and explain to them that you've seen these symptoms. And that's why information and these pamphlets and posters that we're developing are so important, because they're tools that parents and patients can take to the clinics and to doctors to explain that I have some of these symptoms. Could you check that it's not this?
What is our situation given our, our very difficult public health situation, as well as inequity in terms of general access to public health? How are we looking around the conversation around detection, for example? Is it as easy for someone raising a child in Dainfern in Johannesburg to get this detected as it is for someone who is out Gutsolo in the Eastern Cape to go to the local clinic and say, I just have a look, what's going on with this child? Or are there, as happens with many of these matters, those nuances that make it slightly more difficult for other people?
So when it comes to getting a diagnosis, it can be easier for the person in Dainfern to get that diagnosis than it is for someone in a less rural, in a more rural environment. And there's for a few reasons. Obviously, they've got to travel far. There aren't as many clinics. Sometimes there aren't clinics on those days. They have to take off work to go and see that. So that's why we're looking at ensuring that with these signs and symptoms, we create a community of teachers and caregivers that are looking for these signs and symptoms and their extended family, so that everyone's there and they can catch it. Because if we catch it early enough and we manage to get those patients into treatment, we're looking good. Once patients, though they might have to travel far because we have only a few childhood treatment centers in the country, those are really, really good treatment centers in the state, with really good doctors. So it's vital that, you know, if you're seeing a child with bruising that you can't explain, it's not bruising from normal play. You know, children get bruises because they play rough, but or they're very tired, or they have pains in their backs, or they have nosebleeds, that's something you've got to take to a medical professional and ask them to look at it.
All right, I've got to thank you for that. And thank you again for emphasizing the signs and symptoms to look out for. Not saying that, you know, just seeing one or two of those immediately leads to a conclusion of leukemia, but saying that these occurring in the pattern that you describe is certainly worth asking a medical professional to have a look at. That's Lauren Pretorius there talking to me about World Leukemia Day.